G'day everyone, and welcome. In this video I'll be showing you how to do a cold start in the VNAO T-45C Goshawk. I'll start off with a Cockpit Tour, working from left over to the right, just to familiarise ourselves with the cockpit, and then I'll go through the startup procedure. So from back left, unfortunately none of this is actually animated in any way apart from the rudder trim there. Normally I'm going to make this comparison a couple of times, and I don't like to do it, but the IndiaFoxtEcho version on Flight Sim, some of these parts here are actually part of the startup procedure. So you would push down the fuel shut off and you switch your O-bogs on. Unfortunately none of that is relevant in this. So we get to this next stage, which is control augmentation, trim, standby switches and things like that, and of course the engine switch. So we're going to need to switch that on when we come to our startup. We've got the throttle here with the finger lift, flaps, anti-skid. These are your hydraulic gauges, Hydro 1 and 2, and brake hydraulics. These are your trim gauges. That one would be the most relevant one, being the stabilizer, aileron and rudder. Up here we've got emergency flaps, emergency gear, your launch bar, gear, jettison, your flap indicator here. Up here is your master arm. That's not relevant. We'll go straight over to the right, and over this side we have our instrument and console lights here. Along the edge here are external lights, your batteries and generator switches. This bit here will be your IFF, but it's not implemented in this at the moment. Radio, I believe this is radio 2, radio 1's over here on the centre. Your TACAN, your nav radio, and your audio switches along here. Intercoms hidden behind the switch there. Parking brake and hook, and that's obviously a clock. Eject the seat. There's nothing pullable or animated inside the cockpit, so that's purely done by key binding. Okay, and now onto the center console. We'll go from left to right. So we've got a vertical velocity indicator, your speed in knots, your speedometer, whatever it is, backup artificial horizon, barometric altimeter, your turn slip indicator, your angle of attack gauge. Over here is your warning and fire lights. That's your fuel flow. This one is your fuel quantity. This one is your percentage in RPM or accelerometer, or whatever you want to call that. And this one is the exhaust gas temperature. Here we have pitot heat, and this is your hook bypass. So you click up for carrier, click down for field, and obviously you've got your two MFDs in the middle there. Down here between the legs you've got radio 1, your cabin pressure, and COM 1 and COM 2 switches there, which are not animated in any way. Now the thing to remember is that the radios are not wired into DCS for ATC in any way at the moment. Hopefully that'll be implemented at some point in the future, but you can use intercom for talking to your backseater, and you can also use the radios for multiplayer, talking between players, so that's not so bad. A couple of things to point out that will be different in the startup is that on the throttle here, on the IndiaFoxtEcho, this button here is the gas turbine starter switch, or APU, whatever you want to call it. that is what you would normally push before starting the engines, but you have to keybind for that, so you'd have to go to gas. Okay, so you're going to want to bind that to something, or just press right shift home, whatever you're more comfortable with. So that's one big difference, and the finger lift to pull it out of idle is also another thing that's different to flight sim, if you're used to that one too. But yeah, that's the main cockpit sorted. You've got your scratch pad at the front here, which is for your HUD on off, day auto setting, and the brightness. This is your mode. Select you through a few different things on the HUD. Low altitude warning, you can set that here by clicking that, putting an input of whatever it is in feet, press and enter. Course, you can change your course. Heading, change your heading. Bingo fuel, also you can change bingo fuel, just entering the input and enter. There are also ways of changing the bingo fuel and low altitude warning in the MFD, so there are backups for that too. So that's the cockpit tour. Obviously this is your canopy. That'll be your canopy close. Just jump into the back seat by pressing number 2. It's not. There we go. Okay, so as you can see, the layout is slightly different. No HUD. We still have the scratch pad, but other than that, everything is pretty much the same. The internal lighting, IFF is obviously not here, and also the external lighting isn't here either. Other than that, everything's pretty much the same for the instructor. So yeah, there we go. So jump back into the front seat. So we just have a quick look around the outside. As you can see, some differences to the Hawk if you're used to that, and also there are some anomalies with some of the modelling, which I'm sure will be rectified at some stage. As you can see, the tabs that will go over the points of connection for the bomb pylons, the rocket pods, and what would be the fuel tanks, which is another thing that's missing from this. I'm not sure if anybody's actually done any research before looking into this aircraft, but I recommend going and having a bit of a read about this, as it doesn't actually carry any air-to-air weaponry whatsoever. It may have simulated avionic armament for air-to-air, say dogfighting practice or whatever, but carrying, even Cap 9s, it doesn't carry anything like that. No sensor pods or anything like that. The pylons are purely for practice bombs, practice rockets, fuel tanks, and then you've got the center pylon for the ferry pod. So anybody hoping for air-to-air armament, unless of course they're going to use artistic licensing and ignore the reality of it all, there will not be, or should not be, any air-to-air armament involved in this whatsoever. So yeah, I was a bit disappointed to see that the fuel tanks weren't added. So there is no extended range on this. What you get is what you're given. But that's that. That's the nature of the game. Whatever VNAO want to do with it, it's their baby. So fair play. Let's get this thing started. So we're going to go down to the left and flick on our engine start button, but we just want it to on, so it's left left click on the mouse. If you right click, it will go to start and will do nothing. We're on an airfield, so we're going to want to put anti-skid on. Working our way across, 0 the altimeter, again working across, put the bar, I know it says to have the parking brake off, but I like to have it on just in case it decides to roll forward. And now we're going to come down to the power section on the right here. Battery 1 on, battery 2 on, and the generator 2 on. Okay, now with our gas turbine switch either bound onto a joypad or pressing right shift and whatever it was, the key binding, press and hold that down until you get a GTS light pop up here, and you should hear it start up as well. There we go, GTS. So now we have an APU running. So before we get the engines going, switch on the lights, external lights. Okay, and now we get round to our engine starter switch. You're going to want to right click and hold, and we will get ready, let go. Now that stops, the RPM stop climbing. We're going to click that, right click, that will introduce the fuel flow and the engine will come to life. While the RPMs are climbing on that, we'll go round from the right and work our way to the left, switching on various bits and pieces. IFF again is not modelled, so we're going to put some console lights on. We're going to flick the radio to transmit, receive and guard, so right click twice. I'm going to turn on TACAN, turn on the nav radio, turn on pitot heat, flick on both MFDs, turn on radio 1 to transmit, receive and guard. Okay, we're good this side. Okay, drop the flaps down to half. Now as you'll see here, we've got a hydraulic warning. What it is hydraulic 2 gauge will read 0. What you need to do is go over to this button here, click and hold until it is all the way up as high as it will go, let go, and you'll see that that light has gone out. Now for the MFDs, there are different functionalities. I'll go through those now. So stores is what you'll use for, obviously, for your weapons. I'm not carrying anything at the moment, so it won't show, but this is air to air. Again, nothing there. You can use gun, but that's just simulated. Air to ground. If you had rockets, to select a pylon, this is one pylon, but 2 switches for each. Obviously bombs and rockets, so you'd flick, if you had bombs on your pylons, you click bomb, and then you flick it over to CCIP, which then put the HUD in CCIP mode. Put that back into manual. If you had rockets, you'd keep that in manual, and you can change it from firing a single to a ripple, doing that, so when you hold the weapon release button, it will fire a whole salvo. That's it for that. HSI, pretty much straightforward, and you can click a course direction indicator to come on. You can turn that off. You can also, if you've got a flight plan that you've made in Mission Editor, you can make the waypoint show up clicking the waypoint button there. Or you can use the TACAN and introduce the TACAN via obviously the frequency or the code that you've put in, and that will show up on there too, and that will take you back to the flight plan. That will take on. I'm not 100% sure what this is. I think it's still in development, as this pops up every now and then. And then of course we've got ADI, so you've got your speed, altitude, artificial horizon, turn slip indicator, G, angle of attack, your Mach number. So yeah, everything you need to know there. I guess this is your primary and these are all your backups. So the usual setup that I have in flight sim would be HSI and an ADI. Sorry, yeah, HSI and an ADI. I'd have a flight plan in there and all that good stuff. But as I don't have a flight plan, I don't bother with the whole HSI. So go back to menu, and I usually have HUD on the second one. But there are other things. So you've got data, which should give you data of where you are, gives you latitude, longitude, elevation, magnetic variation, and all those beautiful bits and pieces. And then obviously you normally be able to go over to GPS. Obviously that's not implemented yet. Give you data on the aircraft, heading, your ground speed, all the bits and pieces that you'd need to know. You got your engine data here, all the readouts, and that's about it really. Everything else is not implemented. So yeah, that is that for as far as that goes. And now onto the pedestal up here for the scratch pad. This is your HUD on off switch. That's not implemented. You can turn the brightness up and down. Why you want to turn it down, I'm not 100% sure. And then you've got your low altitude warning. It's set at 41 there, so we'll set that for 500 feet. Clear that. Low altitude warning, 500 feet. Enter. Bingo fuel set for £1,000. There we go. Going through the different modes, you can declutter, bring up the depression firing mode for the rockets. You can set the depression for the angle at which you're diving in on the target, so that you know that you're firing correctly. So that you can do there. And then back to your normal setting. I forgot to add earlier, this is your angle of attack indexer and will be your best friend when you come in on a carrier landing. And the aim is to get the amber circle in the middle lit up at all times on your way in. If your arrow is up, you're going too fast. Arrow's down, you're going too slow. So just make fine adjustments using the trim and throttle to get your best combination. Like I say, I've done this video from an airfield instead of a ship, just to spice it up a little bit. I will be doing a video on carrier procedures, but that'll be coming a bit later. But yeah, other than closing the canopy, we're all pretty much ready to go. And if you do need to change your loadout, go to your comms menu, go to crew. You can do request ground electric power. all your repair, request to launch, and you can salute, and you can do your rearm and refuel here, so you can change in your board number, your livery, your fuel, and of course you can add your bombs, your rockets, or your ferry pod, you know, whatever floats your boat. Anyway, I hope that's helped, and take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.